Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Hour Podcast. This is episode 21, 2-1. This is a playoff edition special. We are back. This is the um, NFC and AFC Championship special episode. Okay, we just finished up the divisional round. It was a really exciting weekend of NFL football, and even more exciting than all of that, we have our special guest on today, our good buddy Nirvan. So, Nirvan, welcome on. We're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, boys. Glad to be here.
So tell the folks a little bit about yourself, the people that may not know you, kind of where you're at, what you're doing, and how you know us, I guess.
Yeah, so I know both of you guys from Drake. Me and Davey played on the same intramural football team, won the All U championship. Um, got a nice little shirt out of the deal. I've known Johnny for a while too, so both from Drake. Yeah, I've been kind of doing the fantasy football thing, the Pick'em League after graduation, all that stuff. So I've been around. Yeah, I guess I'm a physical therapist and I live in Minnesota. So school Vikings, except they're not in the playoffs anymore. So you hate to see it. But yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, when we used to play flag football, Nirvan coined our team the GSOT, the greatest show on turf. So,
Oh my gosh, people should have paid money when they came to watch us play. That team was special, David.
that was electric. And Banner sang forever, John. Banner sang forever.
Yeah, I can't argue. Yeah, very entertaining to watch you guys play flag football.
When you said you were a physical therapist, I thought you were going to say you're a physical specimen and just get into that because you're also in great shape being a physical therapist and you're still hooping, so still keeping things fit. So good for you, man. Way to stay active.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I gotta walk the walk if I'm talking the talk at work. So I've been trying
Definitely.
to hoop a little bit, kind of stay a little bit in shape. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
never seen a
Nirvan.
chubby physical therapist before. Never.
That's true. For guys like Dave and I, that it's a new year, we're trying to start a good fitness regimen and get into fitness. How does someone go from a couch to being physically active, a couch surfer, couch rider?
I mean, we see people all the time who like they have that mentality. They're just like, I'm gonna dive in head first, January 1st, and just go hit the gym hard. And I feel like that's where you see like actually a lot of injuries and stuff like that. Like it's you got to ease into it. That's my biggest. That's what I tell everyone. All my patients, everything is just like whatever you try, you just got to ease into it. So don't dive in head first. You kind of go in. You kind of test the waters. Put your toe in the water, then ankle, then you kind of wade in, and then you're swimming before you know it. So I think the biggest thing I see is people just go into like, all right, I'm going to start maxing out on bench and squat and all this stuff, and they come back and their back is in shambles, and it's like, what are you doing? Come on. Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to your goals. I feel like if people like want to have big muscles, then I mean, you lift weights. If you want to lose weight, you do cardio, and I mean, calories out greater than calories in type of thing. So I don't know. It just really depends on your goals.
Yeah, what do you think? Because what do they say? Aren't you supposed to have like 150 minutes a week of physical exercise?
I mean, it really depends. I feel like because I just treat a bunch of old people, so it's like if I can get them to move a half hour a week, then I'm happy. But like active people, I actually think you're right, John. It's 150 a minute. Or, I'm sorry, a week, and it's like you're supposed to get in like at least 30-minute bouts or something like that. Something, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like 30 minutes for 5 days a week, right? Is how they come to that number.
I believe that's right. I think the loophole that people were like trying to like not really loophole, but the thing that people were doing were like, oh, like what if I do 15 10-minute workouts, and it's like you're like that's not going to do anything. So they say I think you got to go over 10 minutes is what is recommended.
Nice. Okay. My 90-year-old grandmother rides an exercise bike every single day.
We love to see that.
Yeah, for about 5 miles. So she's killing it.
That's actually sick. Like I know people in their 20s who don't do anything like that. So good for her.
That would be me. Yeah. I'm that guy in the 20s. When I lived with her for like a month during my rotation, she would like always scold me and be like, "Get your lazy ass on that bike and start pedaling." Like she would be like, I'm 89 years old and I'm riding this bike every single day, and you're sitting here.
Dave, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, it made me feel pretty shitty.
You woke up just hungover.
She was a great motivator. I'll say that much.
Oh man.
Yeah. My grandma's the same way.
Jersey?
Odell Beckham Jr. LSU.
Oh, it is 3. Okay, I thought it was 2. Okay.
It was the closest I could find to Vikings colors in my closet, so I wore it for you.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it.
course.
Um,
Speaking of that, tell us how you feel about that Vikings loss and being eliminated from the playoffs after a great regular season, an exciting regular season.
So first of all, like I think in the regular season, it was just so much fun to be a Vikings fan. Like this was like probably my favorite year of like watching the Vikings. Just because every game was just so exciting. Like I'm watching a game versus Indianapolis Colts, who I don't care about, but that was probably the most exciting game I've watched. It's funny though, because last year I think the Vikings actually played pretty similar. They just got the short end of the stick on all those games. You know what I mean? So like all the games that they won this year, they like lost last year. So that's why their record wasn't as good. But yeah, I remember. So they beat the Giants early, like a couple weeks before they played them in the playoffs, and I remember it just at work. I was talking to my buddies, and I was like, I'm not going to be surprised if the Vikings lose this game. It's just classic, like the classic trap game. Like they won a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be a different atmosphere. And I mean, everyone talks about Kirk Cousins not being able to shine in the prime time, and I don't know. I think the biggest thing that I found though is how bad the defense was and how that does not translate to playoff football. Like you can't get away with you can't win without a good defense, I feel, and the Vikings have just a horrendous defense.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the playoffs, you're playing good teams. They're all good teams. Most of them have pretty good offenses, and they're not going to be taking the game off. They're going to give you their best shot. So you have to put a defense out there that can stop people, and I think it's true that defense can certainly win championships and can certainly lose these
That's
playoff
absolutely it.
games. Yeah.
That's absolutely. I mean, you look at like almost any team that's, I mean, in the past, well, like 10, 15 years, like have a gold standard defense behind them, right? So like I don't know. I just feel like watching the Vikings play because I don't know if you guys saw the stat, but they were 13-4, I think, but their point differential was negative, which is
Yeah.
insane. It's like because they won every game by 1 point, but then when they lost, they got blown out, and it's like
Yeah.
that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. I mean, at least
yeah,
they kept it close in that playoff game. Like you kind of go into it and you're just like hoping for them to at least give you a chance and like keep you in the game the whole time. And when it comes down to the last play or the last series, you're in the game. You can tie it, you can win it, whatever it might be. And they kept it close. They had a chance at the end. So sometimes that's all you can ask for. Was it a hard pill to swallow seeing the team that beat you guys get their ass kicked the next week?
No, because I just knew whoever was going to win that game was going to get clapped. Like if the Vikes went over to San Fran, they were just going to get hosed. And then I mean, I wasn't really surprised that the Eagles blew out the Giants. And you guys talked with Sepka last week about it. But I mean, I think John said it was tough to beat a team 3 times in a year, which I agree with. But I don't know. The Eagles are special, man. That team
yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah, I always look at these good teams like the Eagles and 49ers, and I don't know all the contract situations, but I feel like when your team is that dominant, it's kind of win now, or you're definitely going to lose some important positions next year because you can't pay all
I
these
mean,
studs.
yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing too is just having a quarterback on a rookie contract. Like,
Yeah.
because they can pay so many other positions, and like, I mean, Jalen Hurts is great, but he's like, they're not paying him up the nose or anything. Brock
Mhm.
Purdy, I mean, Mr. Irrelevant. I guess they have money tied up in like other people, or their quarterback position isn't Brock Purdy, but like they have money to kind of spend on other players. Like they signed Debo to a pretty big deal. I mean,
Christian
they brought
McCaffrey.
right, they
Yeah,
brought in CMC, and it's like that's why the Vikings I don't think will ever be that great as long as they keep just throwing money at Kirk Cousins because one, you just like hamstring the defense. Like you just can't sign defensive players, which is not good.
yeah. I did want to say I forgot to mention just so everyone knows in the pick'em. I forgot to say we're having you on because you were the legitimate last place because
Yeah.
Jake Sepka he didn't pick like the second half of the season. So if anyone's listened this far into the podcast, which probably there's very few left, but we're having our buddy Nirvan on just to see what it's like swimming at the bottom.
It's lonely at the bottom.
Yeah.
No, no, I mean, I feel like literally my best week that I had, I selected everything Thursday during the day. And then before the Thursday game started, I switched, like blindly just switched all of them. And I actually did well. and I was like, I can't pick stuff. Like I'm just so bad. And then just at the end, I was like, you know what? I just can't put myself through this anymore. I'll do it next year for sure. But golly,
Hey, sometimes you just have a bad year. You just want to get through the end of the season and just a whole new
you know
reset.
what? And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rebuild next year. We're gonna regroup, and we're gonna come back stronger.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bo should be a guy you're looking at. Whatever strategy he used from going to the
If we
absolute.
can take any coaches from the Bo coaching tree, we'll gladly take them.
No, it was fun having you with. But yeah, back to the Vikings. I don't know. Do you know how much Kirk Cousins' contract is?
Golly, it's guaranteed money. At least it was. 30 million is what's coming to mind. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
A guarantee is a guarantee.
I know that, which is wild. The thing about
28
it, though,
million.
What's that, John?
28 million a year.
Yeah.
Oof.
I think he's like, I don't know if he's up for an extension or they just extended him either, but like, I don't know. I think Kirk is just fine. I like him in the system, actually. I think he was bad in Zimmer's, like, when his offensive coordinator regime, like, that was not for Kirk. Like, I don't know, like the O'Connell system definitely is suited for Kirk a little bit more because you don't depend on him to be like a play action quarterback who needs to like be mobile, and it's, I don't know.
You know what? A lot of people too will talk a lot of shit about Kirk Cousins, me including that. But in the NFL, honestly, it's hard to find a quarterback that can like keep your head above water and win you games. And Kirk Cousins is one of those guys. The biggest knock I have on Kirk is how much money he demands and how much money he had in that contract, because then you're essentially weakening the rest of your roster, like you guys just talked about. So, but Kirk Cousins as a quarterback, it's a lot of shit, but I think he's actually like a decent quarterback that can win you some games.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, like, yeah, kind of what you said. It's just hard to like find a good quarterback in the league that's like consistent, and that's kind of what Kirk is. He's not, he's not going to like light up the scoreboard or anything like that, but he's good at what he does. But yeah, he just demands so much money, and I remember, I think when he signed that big extension, it's like when the Vikings had like a really good defense, like in 2017, 2018, like when they kind of made that run, and then like when what was his name? Case Keenum, when he was the quarterback. And it's like they got so far because of the defense, and then they signed Cousins and they couldn't pay anyone on the defense. So everyone just walked, and it's like that's problematic. But I don't know.
I remember that year. That was interesting. So I think Kirk Cousins got hurt early in the year. Is that correct? And then Case Keenum came in?
No, I think
it was later in the year.
No, I don't think Cousins was actually on the team yet.
No, he was. He had to have been. Because this was when like the Stephon Diggs catch happened, and
right. Was Cousins on? I think they signed him after, or they traded for in free agency, because I think it was the season after. They had Sam Bradford for a while, and he was actually, not great.
I thought Kirk Cousins was injured. I could be wrong, but because I thought your timeline was right. I thought he was the quarterback. We knew what we had out of him, and then he got hurt. Case Keenum made that like late run, and then they extended Kirk Cousins.
That could be right. Let's see.
That NFC Championship game was what against the Eagles? 2000, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, was like 2016.
I was living in Minneapolis. I think that was 2017.
It was 2017.
Yeah, you guys are right. I think Sam Bradford went down.
Yeah, because then that was the big thing, was like, oh, we actually need a quarterback. And then, yeah, on March 15th, 2018, Cousins signed with the Vikings, which was the year after.
I stand corrected then.
Yeah,
so I think it was like Bradford. It was some scrub, and then like that was kind of the missing piece, because since like Favre left in like 2009, it's been like a weird like plug and play for like quarterback. Like they tried Joe Webb, who played like receiver in college. Like he was like our starting quarterback for like 2 seasons.
Bridgewater.
What's that?
They had Bridgewater, right?
Yeah. Then they brought Teddy Two Gloves in. Absolute stud. I'm a big fan of Teddy Two Gloves. And then he got like blew out his. Did you guys hear about that? Like how bad that injury was? I didn't know about it until I looked back. But I don't know if this is like a rumor. But like it was a non-contact knee injury, and his knee was only being held together by his tibial artery and tibial nerve. Like everything else was like shredded, which I don't know if that's true or not, but that is wild.
That does not sound good. And that does not sound good long term either.
Sounds like let's just rest your life in a hover round. That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, he started like because he got traded to New Orleans, and then he went to Carolina after, right? And then
He's been at Miami this year. He played a couple games.
Then recently he moved to Miami.
He's been bouncing around now.
But but I mean, you can't go wrong with Teddy Two Gloves. Yeah, and then after he left, I think it was the Bradford show for like a season and a half, and then they signed Captain Kirk.
Yeah, and then I don't think Kirk has taken him as far as Case Keenum did, though. Is that right?
I don't know. They haven't been to the NFC Championship. I think he won like one playoff game with them. Like they went to the divisional round because they beat the Saints, and that was 2019, 2018, something like that.
Okay. Did he have a good game against the Giants? I didn't really catch that game.
It was like, I feel like Kirk never really has a good game. You know what I mean? Like I feel like his games are like decent.
Yeah, he probably went for like 240
something.
A touchdown.
It wasn't like anything.
A pick, maybe 2 touchdowns and a pick.
I would say. Go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say, like you talked about earlier, Nirvan. I think the defense is what did them in. I mean, letting up whatever they let up to the Giants, like 28 or something. They lose like 21-28 or something like that.
So they lost 24-31. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, 31 points. I mean, the Giants, they're decent, but they made Dan Jones look like he was the greatest quarterback to ever play.
That was so dude. They would literally he would snap the ball and just tuck it in and run and get 7 yards every time. I'm like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
It was actually so frustrating. But they a couple days ago, they fired Donatel. So thank goodness for that, because that guy was not it.
Is that the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, he's the DC. He's gone. And then they're apparently trying to hire Flores from Pittsburgh. He's like their linebackers coach. I didn't know that he was there, but he's there, and they're trying to get him over. It'd be kind of cool because I guess him and O'Connell, they had some like 1 year of overlap when they were under Bill Belichick, I think. So they kind of know each other, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Cousins had 31 for 39, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions against.
Yeah, like
just that's a great game.
I think that's a great game.
It is, but I feel like, I don't know, but I mean, if you look at it too, it's like, and I was like looking at some of the stats, looking at the divisional round, like there was only 16 rushing attempts for the Vikings. And I feel like that's also another thing that's not good in like the playoffs if you just can't run the ball. And I understand like game script gets that, like if you get behind, you just can't be handing the ball off. But like, I don't know, the Vikings, like when they had success was when Dalvin Cook was getting like 21 carries a game, and that was like their part of the offense that was kind of like running the show.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the games this past weekend, Nirvan?
Yeah, I was actually with Michael Harvey. I understand he's a friend of the show. I was with him this weekend. He came over and we watched the Jaguars and Chiefs game, and then I watched a little bit of. I didn't watch really any of the Giants and Eagles game because I just knew that the Giants were going to get clapped. Yeah, and I watched a bit of the Bengals and Bills game.
What was your? I actually didn't see much of the Chiefs Jaguars. What was your takeaway on that game?
My takeaway, okay, this is going to be a hot take. Patrick Mahomes, I understand, is very good. I don't think he's as good as people say he is, just for the fact that Chad Henne checked in and the offense did not implode. It actually looked still good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, don't get me wrong. Like Mahomes is who he is, but I mean, you gotta take a look in the mirror when he goes out and everything is actually just totally fine. You know?
Yeah. I was watching it at a bar in Madison, and I looked at the screen. And I said, "Wow, that was a nice completion." Then I don't know what Henny's number is, but it's definitely isn't Mahomes like 15 and Henny's like 8 or something. I'm like,
something
wow,
like that.
Chad Henne, and I was like, unbelievable.
Yeah, 98-yard touchdown drive in his opening drive coming in.
No shit.
Yeah, I had
yeah, but that's what I.
Oh, go ahead, Nirvan.
No, I was gonna say like, yeah, that's kind of my take, I guess, kind of a hot take, but I don't know.
So would you argue, let me get this from you. Would you argue that a healthy Chad Henne is better than a banged up Pat Mahomes?
No. I guess it really depends, but I mean, because I was, again, being a PT, I'm interested in like the injury part of it too. When I was looking, he has a high ankle sprain, and I can't even imagine the kind of drug concoction that's injected in this man's ankles every day. Are you kidding me? Like for him to be playing, or to go back into the game and then to be playing this week is kind of wild. But I don't know. I feel like if you can get the pain down and swelling down, I feel like, I mean, you're taking Pat Mahomes over Chad Henne for sure. But I guess if what I'm trying to say is like if push comes to shove and like Mahomes can't play, I feel like the Chiefs still like they're not like they still have a chance to win the game, you know?
Hey,
Yeah.
if Chad Henne wins him a Super Bowl, do they have a decision to make come next year?
Put Mahomes on the block, his $500 million contract off the books.
It might
That would
be
be
a little
a wild world that would be living in if they gave up 27-year-old Pat Mahomes because of a high ankle sprain because Chad Henne came in and bought him a Super Bowl. Chad Henne's got to be like close to 40.
He's old. I feel like he was old like when I was yeah,
he's been in the league forever, I feel like.
I guess let's do a quick fact check. I'm gonna guess 34.
37.
He is 37. Oh my god.
He looks like a poor Ben Roethlisberger. I've never actually seen him without his helmet. Look him up. Dude, look up a picture of him without his helmet.
Yeah, but he did a good job. He came in and did the job. They have such a great offense, such a great like offensive scheme with Bieniemy and Andy Reid. They're just great minds. Obviously Matt Nagy, one of the greatest minds in NFL history. And then you have Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the league, and they just moved the ball just fine. They had a huge 15-yard roughing the passer penalty that kind of helped things keep moving for them. I actually had the Jaguars to cover the spread in this game, despite what I said in last week's episode. So I had Jaguars +8. I was watching it with a couple Chiefs fans, so I was trying to just keep my mouth shut, and I just kept saying, I'm just hoping for a close game, I'm just hoping for a close game.
I just want to watch good football. That's
and then when I started praying, when the Jaguars were down 10 and they were kicking a field goal to go down 7, I started praying, and that's when everyone knew that I had money on the Jags.
What was the prayer?
Well, I just was praying to God that the kicker could figure it out and hit it between the uprights to cover the spread.
Was that part of a
very religious
or was that just by itself?
It was a solo trip. And that's what happens too for me is I was watching this game and it was I actually had him, I think, +9.5. So it was like a 10-point game for the longest time. And I'm like, it's gonna fucking end this way, isn't it? And like the Jaguars were driving and I was like, thank God. And then that fumble happened. Agnew fumbled. And then I was like, you gotta be kidding me. The Jaguars get the ball back and then they throw a pick. And I was like, this is destiny that I'm going to lose this bet. And then the Jaguars got the ball back again, and then they ended up kicking a field goal, which saved me because if it was 4th down and I thought they were going to go for it, but they decided to kick it and then kind of keep you'll see teams do that a lot if they're down 2 scores, including a field goal. They'll kick the field goal first to kind of keep the game going because if they go for it on 4th and don't get it, then the game's over right then and there. So they like to keep the hope alive, kick the field goal, do the onside kick, and just see what happens. But they kicked the field goal, thank God, cover the spread. So it was a good day.
I remember me and Harvey were sitting at that bar, and we saw so the field goal was made. And they kicked an onside kick, and we were astounded at how well he kicked that onside kick. I don't know if you guys watched it or not.
It was close.
I remember I watched it. Why is the ball bouncing like that? It was art.
Yeah.
Hats off to that guy.
Yeah, that was a nice kick.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I want to say it's Josh Lambo. Shout out Josh Lambo.
Was it Lambo? Well, I think it normally is Lambo, but they bring in their punter because he's the onside specialist, they said, or something like that. Either way, we don't need to be talking about who was
Josh Lambo covered the spread, so shout out Josh Lambo.
Do you guys think Trevor Lawrence, do you think his future's still bright?
Oh, definitely bright. The type of guy, if I had him in a dynasty league, I would never let him out of my hands. Out of my sleeves,
and they're getting Calvin Ridley next year too.
Yeah, huge piece.
I gotta say,
I think people are a little high on Ridley because how long has it been? Because in 2019 or 2020, he took a mental health break, and then he had the gambling thing, and we saw Deshaun Watson, the great return, and that's what worries me. Is I think that it might be a little bit like that because a lot happens from the age of 25 to 28.
I see what you're saying, but it's also a difference in positions where Calvin Ridley can step into the Jaguars offense and be the number 2 guy or even number 3, if you want to say that right away, and kind of just blend in, where if you're the starting quarterback of a team, you just got paid what do you get paid? $250 million with a bunch of guaranteed money, Deshaun Watson I'm talking about. he has way more pressure and like way more responsibilities than Calvin Ridley would have. So I think Calvin Ridley's like talent and just being able to get back out there and have healthy, fresh legs. Like when he went to prison for that the gambling, for $1,000 wager that he bet, he probably just got jacked and was working out all the time. We're gonna see a longest yard type return out of Calvin Ridley.
Wasn't that like Plaxico Burress? Like when he went to jail, he was like running routes and stuff, like with the prisoners in the prison yard to like stay in shape.
Yeah,
That
probably.
is so crazy.
But look at Plaxico when he came back. I think he was a little older though.
Yeah.
And
and he shot himself in the
foot.
leg. So that's
Yeah.
a little
I
different.
forgot about.
Yeah. But that's what I was going to ask you is Calvin Ridley the past 3 years, he's been like making sports bets on his phone and just running routes in his backyard. Like that's all he's been doing. Or do you
I'm
actually
sure
think this guy's been staying in peak physical condition?
maybe not peak physical like playing condition, but he's been staying in shape. I mean, a team would not sign him or trade for him if they didn't think that he could like pass a physical and do what he needs to do. So I feel confident, and I think you're forgetting because it's been 2 years, like how good of a wide receiver he was for the Falcons.
Yeah. It was 3 years. It was 3 seasons ago, I think. Was it 2019 season when he was really good?
Yeah.
And you see this quite a bit with running backs too. Maybe not so much receivers, but like if a running back goes down early with like a big injury and they kind of miss the year, that's a year where they're like not taking hits or like putting stress on their body either. Like 'cause they're not playing in the season. It's like when they come back, they're like a lot more fresh too. I mean, it's different because receivers don't take that kind of hits, but I think it'll be interesting because he's going to be fresh when he comes back. It's not like he was out for 2 seasons because he blew out both of his knees. Like I don't know.
Yeah, like a Michael Thomas who's had like this like weird stress fracture or whatever he has in his foot, where he's like been basically out for like 3 years. I'm done on Michael Thomas. He's dead to me.
Absolutely.
He's like getting older. Every time he tries to come back, he's physically inept. But Calvin Ridley's healthy. He took a mental health break, and now he's better. He just was losing a lot of bets on the Falcons, so he had to take a mental health break, and then he got caught for betting on the Falcons, so then he had to take that break. So I'm hoping that he comes back ready to roll.
That'd be funny if he bet against the Falcons.
He would be a genius.
That would be hilarious.
They should have gave him like a bonus, not a suspension for betting on the Falcons. Just they should have gave him some sort of like counseling or something.
So long story short, we hope for the best for Calvin Ridley. I don't see it. I'm out on Calvin Ridley. We'll see next year what it turns out.
Keep your eyes peeled for him in your dynasty league. That's all I'll say.
He's already picked up, or I'd probably be going for him. Thanks, Dave. Giants-Eagles game. Eagles dominated the Giants. Daniel Jones looked like Daniel Jones. And Jalen Hurts put on a nice performance. Not as much passing yards, 150, 2 touchdowns passing, ran for 34 yards. I didn't watch much of that game. Do you guys have any commentary on that one?
I think the biggest thing that I saw was that Jalen Hurts like doesn't look hurt. No pun intended, but like I think was it a shoulder injury that he had? You like that, John? It's a shoulder injury that I think he had, and like looked like he was fine. I watched a few highlights from it, and he looked like he was throwing it well when he was throwing it. He didn't look like a hobbled Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I like to be fully transparent with the listeners, so I'll just throw my wagers out there. I felt pretty good about the Giants keeping it close, so I had the Giants +8 here. Just a demoralizing loss, really, the whole game from start to finish. I had the same amount of units as I had on the Jaguars in the first game, so ultimately I broke even after the first day of NFL playoff football. Pretty devastating loss there from the Eagles. They never really stood a chance. Daniel Jones played like garbage. He might have just lost his contract with the Giants that he was going to have. Saquon Barkley, who I was piping up his ass last week, blowing smoke on him, saying he was going to be a stud. He didn't do anything. I actually had a parlay that had 4 legs. All 3 legs hit. The last leg was a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown. He did not score a touchdown, so that bet lost. It would have cashed out a pretty penny for me. So, I'm just kind of bitter about the Giants right now. I felt confident going in, and they really let me down.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I was with you. I thought it'd be a divisional game. They've seen each other throughout the year. Like, their schemes. I just was really surprised that it was. That is a dominant performance, right?
It's crazy because you see that the Eagles have like done this kind of like throughout the year where they just kind of blow teams out, and it's like it's the NFL. Like these aren't just some like scrubs out there. Like these are professional athletes, and it's so crazy to see that the Eagles, especially in a playoff game, just like wipe the floor with these people.
including
Yeah.
the Giants. They blew out the Giants earlier this year, and I still, I forgot about that, I guess. Like I didn't factor that into my bet this week, and I was like,
Recency
oh, David,
bias.
this will
Yeah.
be different, David. This will be different, and it wasn't different. And you guys were talking about it because one of the biggest things that people talk about in any sport really is like it's hard to beat a team 3 times, right? Well, since the AFL NFL merger in 1970, okay, there's been 24 occasions where the team's meeting for the third time in the postseason after one team won the first 2 matchups, right? So they're going for the sweep. In
Yeah.
those, this is just 24 playoff games, okay? The sweeping team is 15-9. And I think this was before that Eagles Giants game. So let's say 16-9.
Wow.
So I think that myth is kind of debunked where like it's
You've
not.
debunked it.
Yeah, it's not always like hard to play a team 3 times, especially when one team is like head and shoulders way better than the other one and they're playing at home. It's like this was written on the walls that the Eagles were going to play well and win this game, but I just play myself before every time I put a bet in. I just convince myself of one thing and I'm just so brutally wrong. And I listened back to the podcast to see like what we talked about. And John, you and I both said this is an under game. We said let's hit the under on this game and we'll win. It was definitely an under game, but I did not bet on the over or under, so that was just another lesson.
Did we just become Mythbusters?
I think we did, yeah. This is
about
now
to
the
say-
Mythbusters podcast.
Unreal research and reporting there, David. Going
Yeah,
above
thank
and
you.
beyond with the statistics.
That's excellent.
My guy. That's what the people need.
Yeah, so just a little fun fact for people out there that you're sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table next year and your grandpa says, "Hey, it's hard to beat a team 3 times." You grab him by the collar and you say, "Listen here, Grandpa, 15-9, 15-9 record. We're going for the sweep. 16-9."
So are we in or out on Jalen Hurts for the future?
Oh, in.
You're in?
I don't know, man. I still don't feel good about Jalen Hurts. I still don't feel it.
What's your hang up on him, David?
I don't really know what my hang up is. He deserves to be in, and I'll give him that. He has earned his way into my respect. It's just straight eyeball test. I just feel like he's in a really good situation, and he's always been in a good situation. So going back to college, like he was on Bama, then he went to Oklahoma, great situation. Now he's in the Eagles, great situation. It's like I don't see him like if you pick him up and drop him on another team that's like a much shittier team, I don't see them like achieving like the things that the Eagles are achieving. And that's not necessarily a knock on him. He's just like maybe more of a system guy or maybe more of like a surroundings guy. Like if you pick up Pat Mahomes and put him on a shitty team, that team's going to be head and shoulders better than they were before.
I agree. So I guess this begs the question. So kind of similar skill set, would you rather have Fields or Hurts right now?
Right at the very moment, I'm sticking with my boy Fields.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
That is the heart talking rather than the brain, my guy.
That is the heart.
No way that's true.
That's
I
the
think
Jersey
I like
talking.
Fields a lot. I like Fields a lot, but I just feel like I don't know. Some of the decisions that guy makes. I mean, because he's young, it's not great, but I don't know. I guess in a couple years we'll have this discussion again and see. But
quick question for you: how many better wide receiver combos in the league can you think of than AJ Brown, Devontae Smith?
Yeah,
Justin
maybe
Jefferson, Adam Thielen.
maybe T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Definitely. Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Waddle and Hill for sure.
Maybe Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
When they're healthy, I would agree.
Yeah.
Maybe Debo Ayuk. I mean, Ayuk is not that bad. Debo is obviously.
Ayuk's pretty good. Yeah, I would put them up there too.
That's a good point.
Good. But for sure, like top 5 or 6 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'd put him top 5
for sure.
Yeah, they look good. So
Darnell Mooney and EQ St. Brown.
Yeah,
that was one that was just on number 7 for me.
Never forget about Dante Pettis. Yeah, Dante Pettis and Equinemius St.
Brown. Dan Jones, you think he is gone after this year now? You think they're not going to re-up him?
No, I think they'll re-up him, but I think he lost a lot of money in that game, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think so.
Say if they played the Vikings in that first game and the Vikings came down, scored a touchdown to end the game to win it. Not to give you these fantasies or anything like that, Nirvan, that you're going to think about, but imagine if the Vikings came down and scored a game-winning touchdown. I think that the Giants would back a Brinks truck up for Dan Jones for how he played in that first playoff game. But after that Eagles game, they're definitely more hesitant. It's like, shit, this is a team that we're going to play 2 times a year every year. And then if we see them in the playoffs, like that's the performance that we're going to see out of you. It's like, you've performed well enough for that we want to have you as a quarterback because, like we talked about earlier, it's really hard to find a good, consistent quarterback in the NFL. And they much rather start with Dan Jones than start from scratch. But I think like he lost out on a lot of potential money on that last game.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on the Giants Eagles?
I don't know. I think again, maybe just game script is a little bit different, but like I was like just looking at the stats a little bit, and the biggest thing that I noticed was the Giants had like Saquon Barkley was their leading rusher with 9 carries, and the
Yeah.
Eagles had 12 carries to Kenneth Gainwell and 17 to Miles Sanders, and then 9 to Jalen Hurts. It's just like again, it's tough to say because of the game script, but I just feel like the biggest thing I was actually looking at the other games too, how much like running the ball makes sense, or like how much that makes a difference. Like if you're not running the ball, like you're probably not going to win. That's the biggest thing that I saw from this game too.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So it goes back to that Tom Brady Cowboys game too. When they went against them, they could not get the running game going. I think Brady
No.
threw the ball like 66 times or something like that. It's like it's
Yeah.
just a recipe for disaster. Like no matter what quarterback you have to have a good run game. Otherwise, you're kind of the defense can just drop back and rush their front four or even front three and just drop everyone back because they know you're not going to try to run. And the
Right.
Eagles have a really really good defense and they shut down the run right away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can see too when you're up, because I think they were up pretty early on the Giants. You can just let that defensive line pin their ears back and just chase Daniel Jones around the field. They don't have to worry about the run or anything else. They just know they got 5 seconds to try to murder him. And I
Yeah.
think that probably if your line can't withhold that, because once you're down early, you're pretty much passing the ball.
You got to pass, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I said. It's kind of like the game script thing, but something I saw.
Bengals, Bills. Bengals with the dominant performance over the Bills at Buffalo, which was very surprising in the snow. I thought the Bengals looked like one of the scariest teams in the playoffs after that game. I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah,
on both sides.
I didn't really watch much. I think like their defensive secondary, and again, it's like because they were playing in the snow, it's kind of tough to like give a lot of credit to the Bills offense. I guess the Bengals defense because they had the snow helping them. But like didn't like Stephon Diggs only have like 4 or 5 catches, and they like the corners shut them down pretty well.
4 for 35.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis had 2 catches for 34 yards, and Khalil Shakir had the most yards out of receivers. He had 40 yards. Khalil Shakir. He's a rookie, I think.
You hate to see that. But yeah, I don't know. I think like and it's funny because I don't know if you guys are on Twitter quite a bit, but Eli Apple is just the pettiest guy I've ever seen in my life.
He's a problem. He's a problem.
He's wild. But yeah, I don't know. The thing that I saw that I took away from that game was like the Bengals secondary is actually. I don't know if it was the weather or a combination of everything, but they look pretty good.
Yeah, and Romo kept talking about it on TV when you watch the game, but like the offensive and defensive line for the Bengals was winning almost every play.
Right.
And the crazy thing is their offensive line is really banged up. They're out 3 starting offensive linemen, and you kind of thought, oh, here we go again with the Bengals not being able to protect Joe Burrow, and they go out there and they perform really really well and gave Joe Burrow time, and he was a surgeon out there. Just picking their defense apart. And granted, the Bills defense isn't what it used to be a few weeks ago. Before Von Miller got hurt and before Micah Hyde's been out and things like that. But they looked bad, and the Bengals looked really good. And after that game that the Bengals had against the Ravens, you were kind of worried going into this game, but they performed extremely well. And you got to feel good if you're a Bengals fan going into next week against a team that you've beaten the last 3 times you faced.
Yeah. Now, are there stats, David, for beating a team 4 times in a row? Is that?
Oh.
This would be. Are there stats on that? Because I don't know. I know they beat them 3 times in the 2022 year. If you take the playoffs and then extend it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of stats on it because that would span over multiple seasons. You'd never play a team 4 times in one season. So,
yeah, but the Bengals did run the ball really well against the Bills. They had 170 yards rushing. That's one thing I noticed. They were like making it a point to run it at least 1 or 2 of the 3 plays that they were doing to get first down, and they look good on them. Joe Mixon was getting like 8 yards every run.
Yeah. What are you guys' thoughts? I don't know if you guys saw the stuff after with like Stefan. I mean, I know he's a diva because he played in Minnesota for a while, but like him, he kind of yelling at Josh Allen at the end, and like them, they did not look good on the sideline when they were losing. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think Diggs is out? Do you think it's the Bills are in trouble or anything like that?
I don't
No.
know. I think that he's frustrated that they are this great hyped up team every single offseason, and then it comes crashing down brutally. And like the last 2 years in a row, it was kind of a tragic loss, and this year it was like a more devastating loss where like you just got abused the entire game at home. I think he's more frustrated. I think he wanted the ball more. Like we said, what do you have, 4 catches? Like he's a guy that was getting 10 targets a game minimum during the regular season, and then they're not spreading the ball around very much. They're just not clicking. I think he was trying to take his frustration out on someone, and that was Josh Allen, the guy that throws him the ball. And I think I'm sure it's something that they squashed, afterwards. It was kind of the heat of the moment thing, if I had to guess.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We'll
Yeah, I
see.
don't think it's a big deal. I think they got to know that with him because I'm sure they've lost some big games like that while he's there, and I'm sure the same thing happened. But this time it was perfect because the camera happened to be on him, just bitching at Josh Allen. You know, it
Yeah.
was kind of funny to watch. I mean, you feel bad for. I like Josh Allen as a guy because when he plays like shit, he takes responsibility. I really respect that. I think like Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that. So.
Yeah. Just to be fully transparent with everyone, my action in this game, I had the over. It was kind of my love it bet of the week. I loved it so much going in, and I get to the sports book and I sit down and I turn on the TV. They turn on the TV and it's a total blizzard out there. I was like, the over is screwed. I had some on the Bengals to cover the spread, so that bet cashed at least. I had a Jamar Chase anytime touchdown bet that cashed, so I felt good about that. But I had the most money on the over, which was really not close. I mean, it missed it by 2 scores.
That's tough. Yeah, Jamar Chase and that tight end he was throwing to a lot, that Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
But they seem to have like even Tyler Boyd. Sometimes he'll just blow off games where he'll have 120 yards. So I think they have 3 deep wide receivers, which can be very difficult to get in.
Absolutely.
On any
The hot take: Tyler Boyd could be a receiver one on like almost any team. I feel
what?
almost yes. If you put him on
He's
the
young
Ravens,
too.
yeah, I think he's like 27, 28. Yeah, I mean he's so young. But I feel like you put him on like, let's say like Arizona. I mean, if D Hop leaves, like if he's over there, like he's getting all the targets there. Like he'll be the guy there. You put him on, obviously like Baltimore, he'll be the guy there. And I feel like Joe Burrow. I mean, he's spoiled with having a lot of receivers. Basically, his third receiver, I think, could potentially be a number one. I mean, for sure number two, but like a number one anywhere else. I'm sorry. Yeah, for sure number two, maybe a number one at like most places.
Yeah, I don't hate that take. I think that those other 2 guys in front of him make him look worse too. So like you said, you plug him in, put him on another team, he's going to look like the talented guy that he is. You just compare him to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and you're like, well, this guy's a clear number 3. But you put him on another team, and you're like, wow, this guy's actually really talented. He's big, he's fast, he has good hands, he runs good routes. So like, yeah, I think you're completely right. I think Joe Burrow sees that too, and he gives him the ball. Like he finds him.
He was on my fantasy team. I have him in my dynasty league, and I don't know. He was probably one of the most frustrating receivers to have, just for the fact that it's like if Joe Burrow feels like targeting him 10 times, like he'll eat, but like there's games where he literally has like one catch for 4 yards, and then that's it.
Yeah, he's boomer bust.
For sure.
Hey, I didn't know you did dynasty football. Do you have any tips for a rookie loser like myself?
How many years have you been playing it? Or how many years is the league going on?
This is the first year.
Like
Don't
you
trade
started
don't
it, like
trade your best players in the first year, maybe. Your best young
I
players.
think the biggest thing that I found out early, because we're going to year 5 of ours, is like your draft picks are like currency. Like don't just throw those around. You know
So
what I mean?
what Dave's pissed about, I traded Jonathan Taylor and T. Higgins. I got 3 first-round picks out of them.
I don't know. I'm a big like F them picks guy. Like I don't like I mean I just said that they're good, but like I feel like if you're going to win now, just get rid of your picks. It really depends. I feel like once you start, you need to figure out if your team is competing or if your team is rebuilding. Like if you're like, for example, like if you're gonna draft but you're kind of a late pick in your startup draft, you're just going to draft for youth, then that's kind of, you're not really going to win that much. But if you're like, I drafted DeAndre Hopkins in our startup. This was in 2019, so he was like 26, I think, and 27 maybe. So he was a little bit, I guess, older for a football player. But it was like, yeah, I mean, I have one of the best receivers in the game at pick 8. Like, I'm going to have to build a win now roster type of thing. So just kind of finding out like I guess the texture of your team was the biggest thing that I like. That's the biggest takeaway I think I figured out in the first couple of years.
John had what I like to call a win soon roster that he traded away for a win in 15 years roster. He also had Trevor Lawrence.
Are you low on JT? You don't like him?
No, I think he's great, but I was foreseeing that he would get something like the injury kept lingering around. I was like, okay, they keep rushing him back in. They suck at football, and they're going to give him too many carries. And I figured something bad would happen, and it did. But I do have the 1.01, and then I have the 3rd and 4th pick. So I don't know if you've looked at it, but Bijan is already projected to be like the top 1 or 2 running back.
Well, yeah.
So in Dynasty. So we'll see how it plays out, but I have the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and then I have the 13th pick and the 20th pick. So I plan on trading a lot of them for future picks. And like Deebo Samuel is a guy people are out on this year because he didn't do as well as they would like, So I'll try to get those.
You're buying low, selling high.
I'm trying, but so far I haven't done very well at it. I buy high and then they plummet in value.
Which pick did you have in the startup draft then? If you had Taylor, you had to be like number 1, number 2.
Yeah, it sucked. It sucked because it was like, I was the first pick, so I got Jonathan Taylor, and then by the time it came back around, there was like,
the beans.
You couldn't get a stud receiver, I thought, but I mean, I could still have gotten like Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith, but I was atrocious at my draft. I drafted Cam Akers and Elijah Mitchell in the first 5 rounds.
Oh, you hate to see that.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell's a good pick if they don't get McCaffrey this year.
Right, if they didn't trade for McCaffrey.
Yeah. So, and Cam Akers was dog shit most of the year. So it was just like the best guys I drafted was Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins.
Traded them all away.
Gone.
You traded Lawrence too?
Yeah.
Who's your quarterback? What are you doing?
So I have
Ryan Tannehill and Russell Wilson are his 2 quarterbacks.
No. I have Daniel Jones, aka Vanilla Vic, Russell Wilson, Brock Purdy, and Geno Smith.
Too many quarterbacks. All right. No one gives a shit about your fantasy team. You guys ready to talk Cowboys Niners?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Thank you,
team
David.
Sucks.
Thanks for keeping us on track.
Manager. Okay. Did you guys watch this game?
I watched the highlights. I didn't really tune into this one, to be honest.
Yeah, I watched it.
Just to be fully transparent with my listeners about my wagers that I had the over was my biggest bet of this game. The final score was 19-12. Obviously, the over did not hit. That was another devastating loss for me. I did have the 49ers to cover -3.5. They did cover, so I was very pleased with that aspect. They kind of saved my day there a little bit. But overall, a pretty low-scoring game. I mean, as we kind of talked about the past few weeks, Dak Prescott, I think, kind of did him in here. He did not play very well. He had, I think, 2 picks. He obviously didn't score many points. They had 12 points. And the Niners defense is nothing to joke about. But if you want to go out there and win games and win a Super Bowl that the Cowboys definitely want to do and they're competing for every year, you got to have a quarterback that can go out there and win games. And Dak really struggled.
Yeah. I guess I'm looking. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
I just want to say, Dave, they don't care about my fantasy team, and they don't care about you losing $5 in a 4-way parlay.
This was $20 on the over, actually.
Yeah,
so it was a big loss for me.
So, David, this past weekend, what's your net for betting?
Yeah.
Positive or negative?
It's negative.
12.
I texted John and Jake that I had 14 bets, $108 risk, and I lost $12.
That's not bad. Hey, does Jackie know about this?
Yeah, she knows.
Just kidding.
Like I said, I'm fully transparent with my listeners and my loved ones about my wagers.
That's good. Don't live in the dark. Let the light reveal the truth.
Yeah.
Good for you.
The light will set you free. Truth will set you free.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess biggest takeaway I think I took away from this game, looking at the stats again, 49ers Mitchell and McCaffrey combined for 24 carries, and then Zeke and Tony Pollard combined for 16 carries. And Zeke had 26 yards and Pollard had 22 yards.
Yeah.
Pollard broke his leg.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a wash. I shouldn't have mentioned that, but like,
yeah, too soon.
I mean, like, yeah, it doesn't really count, but like, if your running back is getting 10 carries and he's giving you 22 yards, you're not winning that game. Like, come on.
Niners
Your
defense is legit,
playing lights out, but
yeah, their defense played lights out, and I feel bad for Tony Pollard because he had such a good year this year, and he's going into free agency, and then to break your leg in that playoff game, that sucks. I mean, he lost out on a lot of money, and the Cowboys, I think, need to do the right thing and franchise tag him or give him a big extension. They won't give him an extension, so maybe franchise tag him, let him kind of heal and recover, and then get his money next year.
Yeah, you're a big establish the run guy, Nirvan. We should get you a T-shirt that says "Establish the Run."
Well, I just feel like in playoff football, it's like if like teams that run the ball and teams that play good defense, like that's the teams that win like quite a bit. Like you see like Tom Brady, like I know he's a good quarterback, but every team that he's had gold standard defense. Like they were lights out every week, and then like he's always had like a pretty decent running game, or like his offensive line was good. I just feel like you need like it's a trend. You look at these games, the teams that have had like 50 rushing yards just haven't won. And the teams that have like higher than that, they're winning these games.
I wonder if that comes always back to bite the Bills in the playoffs, because they never, if you watch them like during the regular season, they hardly run the ball at all. Like they'll do it every now and then, but
yeah, Josh Allen is like their leading rusher some weeks, and it's like this is like, how does this happen? But yeah, I don't know.
I've watched the Packers be bad at running the ball, and you're right, it does. Because then the teams can focus on the pass game, and I think if you only have to focus on one thing, it's easier to manage.
And maybe besides the Cowboys, the Packers have the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. So a lot of their games that they don't have a good run game is by choice.
That is true. Oh, that is true. I think that LaFleur has to definitely, after this year for the Packers, take a look at what he's doing, because it's not working.
Did they do anything with Aaron Jones yet? I haven't heard.
No, I think they're gonna. The last I read is they're gonna renegotiate his contract, so it's less of a salary hit. Why they're not doing this with Aaron Rodgers? Why aren't we negotiating that contract? I don't know. That's $50 million versus Aaron Jones, like whatever, 12.
Apparently, he wants to. He said in the Pat McAfee show today that he would restructure. To get some more time.
Really?
Yeah. So that has to make you feel good as a Packers fan that he wants to restructure and wants to stick around.
But I had seen a lot of stuff floating around that he might go to the Jets.
I don't see it happening.
No?
Yeah, I saw this thing that the asking price, I don't know, this is all hearsay, but like the asking price for Rodgers at like at least 2 first-round picks, and the Jets are like, yeah, we'll pay that.
Yeah.
Oh, they did say they'll pay that?
Yeah. I mean, that's I think the tweet. I mean, it's on Twitter. Take it with a grain of salt, but like that's what I saw. And I mean, he goes to the Jets for a year, he retires, and then signs with the purple and gold. We'll see what happens.
Take the far road, the path already traveled. Just hop on his shirt tails. I do want to say though, so I was looking back, because when Aaron Rodgers started his career, he was pretty good in the playoffs, but basically since then he has not been very efficient at winning games in the playoff. So since his last win in the playoffs was 2021 against the Rams. So as you know, Brock Purdy now has 2 playoff wins this year. Aaron Rodgers has 2 playoff wins dating all the way back to January 16th, 2017. So over the past 6 years, Rodgers has 2 playoff wins.
I guess I'm confused what question you're asking here, John. Is there a question behind this?
No, this is a stat I've been saving.
Oh, we're saying this. Gotcha.
And this is why.
Obviously, Brock Purdy, I'm taking him over Rodgers 7 days out of the week.
That's all I wanted to say. But more so, like, how bad is it that Aaron Rodgers has as many wins as Brock Purdy?
I mean, you got to think about it. I think it's a function of the team. It's not the function of the individual, right? Like, I mean, David, great high school quarterback. I had the privilege of playing with him in flag football. We put David Wood in that system. He's putting up some good numbers. You know what I mean? Like,
appreciate that.
I mean, like he's Brock Purdy isn't, I think, the greatest quarterback, but he's surrounded by all these weapons. Whereas Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, but you can't really say the same about his weapons, right? Like, I mean, they're unproven, but I mean, maybe they're good.
His weapons in the past years in the playoffs.
I guess you're right about that, but I mean, if you yeah, I guess Devontae, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But I
Okay.
feel like, I mean, what I'm trying to say too is just like the 49ers defense outstanding. Every part of their offense outstanding. And then like Aaron Rodgers, like he's like one of the main, like the shining points of like the Green Bay Packers. Like their defense is okay. They had a couple different, but I mean, they weren't, I don't know, the 49ers more complete team, I guess.
I just wanted to put that stat out there to show that what you're getting for $50 million is 2 playoff wins in the past 6 years, and you got that from Brock Purdy for.
But you, over the past few episodes of this podcast, you've slobbered all over Brock Purdy's knob. And if you put Brock Purdy on the Packers this season, I don't know if they win 4 games. Like Brock Purdy is not what you think he is. And the 49ers roster is unbelievable. Like their weapons, they have probably top 2 offensive line in the NFL and probably top 2 defenses in the NFL. So if you put all those things together and include the best, like probably the best or the second best offensive mind in the NFL, and then you plug any quarterback in the NFL in there, they're going to have some success. So
I get that argument, but at the same time, like you could also argue Pat Mahomes, just like Nirvan said, isn't as good as people think because you put in Chad Henne and the system works just as well.
yeah, but I disagree with that because our sample size is so small.
Right.
We've seen Pat Mahomes over the past, like every single year he started, so 5 seasons. Like they've hosted the AFC Championship 5 years in a row. We know Pat Mahomes, like our sample size now is huge, that he's probably the most talented quarterback of all time. And like, yeah, he hurts his ankle, he goes out, and then a guy that studies behind Patrick Mahomes and basically stays fresh and also has this great scheme around him can have success. But like, would we take Chad Henne over Mahomes? No, obviously not.
No,
but I would take Aaron Rodgers over Brock Purdy, obviously. Like if you put Aaron Rodgers in the 49ers, I don't think anybody comes close to beating them.
But for $1 per dollar, what you're getting, Brock Purdy's contract is $1 million. Aaron Rodgers is $50 million. I don't think that you're getting 50 times better of a.
No, that's a fair argument. Yeah, I would agree with that. You're not getting 50 times better.
No.
And he's good enough to plug in there and obviously win games.
He's like Kirk Cousins. He's just a better looking, slightly better Kirk Cousins. Like he doesn't do bad in the playoffs. He doesn't look atrocious.
You're talking about Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers is better looking than Kirk Cousins? You see this man's hair?
Have you seen Kirk Cousins smile, dog?
Kirk Cousins is a handsome guy.
You can't get rid of.
I wouldn't say either of them are being really good looking dudes. I guess I don't know. I'm not. That's not my thing to judge. But like, have you seen Aaron Rodgers' hair, bro? Like that stuff is wild.
But no, what I'm trying to say is that I don't think Aaron Rodgers, when it comes to playoff games, he doesn't like take over the game and everyone's like, oh, look at him. He's like Kirk Cousins. Like Kirk Cousins had a great game against the Giants. They still lost. I think that's what as a Packers fan, that's what I usually see. Sure. And I'm ready for it. When I watch the game, I'm like, okay, here we go. And when it gets to crunch time, he's going to fuck it up.
This is gonna be a big test for your boy Brock Purdy this weekend at Philadelphia. This
very big, very hard.
Definitely the toughest game he's played so far. Obviously, like regardless of the situation, being the NFC Championship, like just going to Philadelphia to play Philadelphia, this is going to be the toughest test yet. So he's going to either make me a believer or a hater this week, I think.
David, what's the over/under for that game? Have you checked, or is it out yet?
46.
You taking the over?
I'm taking the under.
Really?
And when I say I'm taking the under, I'm not betting on it because I don't want to take any unders.
Sure.
I like taking overs
in Philly.
For points.
Good defense. Okay, 49ers have a good defense.
So do the Eagles. Purdy,
I get that. But that's what I'm saying. I think it's definitely going to be under.
I think it'll be under.
All right, maybe I'll take the under. You talked me into it.
Okay, sweet. Let's move on to that game. Looking ahead, do we think Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy has a better game?
Jalen Hurts,
without a doubt.
Which defense plays better?
Eagles.
They're going to feast. I mean, they'll be fine, but like you're going against a rookie quarterback. I don't know. You got to pick the defense that's against the rookie quarterback, I feel.
I'm glad you guys agree. I think this is good karma for the 49ers.
The Eagles secondary is in my opinion the best secondary in the NFL. With having those two corners, you don't find two better corners in the NFL with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. And to have them, they're going to be matched up against the good weapons that the 49ers have. I think a difference maker for the Niners is going to be McCaffrey, being able to like dump off to him when that pressure gets to Purdy and having McCaffrey like kind of squirt out. But the Eagles have really, good athletic, fast linebackers too that can keep up with him and shadow him. So it's going to be a really tough matchup. I think you could, flip it both ways and say, well, the 49ers have a really good pass rush and good linebackers and a good secondary that they're going to make, life difficult for the Eagles as well. So this game goes under. I'd be shocked if it's a high scoring game.
Earlier I don't know if it's changed, but I think it was over the weekend. Earlier this week, I heard that Jimmy Garoppolo might be coming back. Have you guys heard anything else about that?
I would not play Jimmy Garoppolo if he came back.
You would not?
I have heard that, Nirvan. I have. But if you were Kyle Shanahan and you have the option to play both of them, who do you play?
They're high on Purdy. It sounds like they even like him better than Trey Lance. It sounds like. You guys hear that they're saying that he might be like the starting quarterback, or that right now like he's slotted as the starting quarterback next year.
Well, okay, so Trey Lance, the argument there, like I know he's this extremely athletic guy. Everyone's real high on him, but if you look at the past 3 years, he's played like a total of 5 football games or something demented like that. Like he is very, very raw, and I think they probably regret moving up to draft him.
Well, he was a rookie last year, so yeah. I mean, now that they've seen what they got out of Purdy, it's like they're probably having regrets. But I don't know. They definitely were high on Trey Lance. Where even this is one of those guys we talked about last week's episode. Just a player that can go in there and you're drafting guys that like played a shit ton of college football. Jalen Hurts, he played a shit ton of college football. Brock Purdy, tons of college football. Like these guys are just playing football. And then you look at like Trey Lance, you look at Zach Wilson, you look at Mitch Trubisky, guys that like started like one season in college, maybe 2 seasons if they're lucky, and like we're just drafting off potential and like maybe like this small sample size, and that usually doesn't pan out. But then like those guys like Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, we're talking about all these players that played like a ton of college football. These are the guys that are having success in the NFL. So I think the 49ers are kind of having like buyer's remorse on Trey Lance, and I think you're right, Nirvan. I think they really are high on Brock Purdy. And as of right now, I think he'll be the starter next year going into next season, unless they get like a Tom Brady for a 1-year rental. Yeah.
Did you guys see they had a big I just read an article about it, but these two met, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy met when Jalen was at Oklahoma and Brock was at Iowa State. And I think Oklahoma edged him out in that game 42-41. Like it was a pretty high scoring affair. So it'll be kind of cool that we get this Big 12 quarterback matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think the Eagles are going to clap the Niners.
That's all right.
The Eagles are just so good. Maybe because I watched them play the Vikings, and the Vikings did not stand a chance like week 2 or something. And I just think the Eagles are like God level. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I think I like the Eagles in this matchup.
I would, if I had to bet, I would actually agree with you. I would have a hard time putting money on the 49ers here at Philadelphia. Like it's cold weather. They're used to that nice San Francisco 55 degrees and slightly rainy, and then they go over to Philly, fly all that way. I don't know.
Dude, Philly's just such a tough place to play. Like Philly fans are like, hey, no offense, but I think this is just kind of that people just say across the board. But like when they came to Minneapolis that 1 year when they were playing the Vikings in the playoffs at US Bank, like from what I've heard, it was not a good experience to be in Minneapolis at that time when Philadelphia fans were just running rampant. It was wild from what I hear.
I believe it. They are scumbags.
It's like a bunch of Tasmanian devils just roaming the streets, or what?
They're just savages, man. They just like they don't just don't care what they say. Anything is just fair game, and yeah, you got to be careful.
Well, that's like, I mean, my bet for this game, I'm gonna put a wager on the Eagles -2.5, and the reason is because this is also ties into the next game we'll talk about, but I'm gonna emotionally hedge in both of these games. I want the Niners to win. I want the Niners to cover, so I'm gonna take the Eagles. and I'm also going to take the Chiefs because I want the Bengals to cover and win as well. I would like to see the Niners and the Bengals both win, mostly because I'm anti-Philadelphia and anti-Kansas City. So, I mean, I could see it going either way. If I was just going to bet on this next game, this Bengals Chiefs game is -1.5 for the Bengals. They're actually favored. I think that's because of Mahomes' injury, obviously. It's at Kansas City. We've seen that the Bengals have Kansas City's number too lately. So that's going to be a game that's going to be really tough for the Chiefs to win. But playing in Kansas City, I think that's one of the hardest places to play, next to Philadelphia. These are both like extremely difficult places to play. So it's kind of funny how it worked out that way. Both one seeds are hosting and they both have like the craziest atmosphere. So it's going to be tough for the Bengals to go in there and win, but I think I believe in Joe Burrow, which is why I'm putting money on the Chiefs.
Do you if you guys were a young rookie quarterback or second-year quarterback, or Joe Burrow's in like his third year, would you rather have to go and play in Kansas City or in Philadelphia?
Probably KC.
KC, because he's had all that success already against him, I think.
Okay.
But as far as just atmospheres alone, I think Kansas City as well. Yeah, Philadelphia seems like hell to be in Philadelphia.
I think I also like playing in Philadelphia in January is not fun compared to like Kansas City. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. Playing in the cold is not a fun place to be.
Yeah. What are you looking at for this game? Any big matchups you're keeping an eye on, Nirvan, or
I don't know.
looking to
like I said, I
establish the
think
run?
I think that I don't like that again. The Bengals secondary, they played really well in the last game against Josh Allen and his receivers, all his weapons that he has. So I guess like you're gonna look at KC's receivers versus the Bengals secondary, and I think that's gonna be kind of what is gonna define the game. A person that I think is actually that I've been impressed with. I guess I watched him more last week, but like Kadarius Toney, what a pickup that Kansas City got. Like I remember looking up, this dude's just making plays. Like it almost seemed like left and right. I know they're not like spectacular plays, but he gets the ball in his hands. And dude's absolutely electric. I don't know. I think he's been fun to watch. I think in the past couple of weeks for me at least.
Yeah, that was a good pickup. That I was like, it was one of those pickups where you get the notification on your phone. The Chiefs signed Kadarius Toney or trade for Kadarius Toney, whatever it was, and I was just like, here we go again. It was like the rich get richer, and Kadarius Toney was banged up at the time, but they believed that he could stay healthy, and he was a little banged up on the Chiefs, but now he's healthy at the right time, and he's probably their number one receiver with Miracle Hardman out, and Juju kind of banged up and getting older, so. They're going to use Kadarius Toney, like you said. He's probably going to be matched up against Eli Apple, and I like Toney's chances there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the difference maker too is Travis Kelce. That dude is just an animal. He had like 14 catches last week or something.
Just 17 targets.
He was feasting, yeah.
Yeah, he was
a tight end.
And I don't think like if you're doing like daily fantasy sports and your option is a tight end, I don't know how you pick another tight end any given.
How do you pick it? Maybe TJ Hawkinson because Kirk just throws him the ball so much too. But like,
yeah, he's good.
I don't know. Yeah, Kelce is by himself, like in terms of tier.
Now, and as far as establishing the run, the Chiefs did have 144 yards against the Jaguars, so they were semi-successful. It looks like they did run it, like they split it between Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. I would agree with you. I think for this game, especially with a hobbled up, busted up ankle Patrick Mahomes, they're going to have to run it because he's not going to be as elusive as he normally is. And if they can collapse that pocket around him, he's going to have to just take.
He's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Did you see? I mean, like did you guys watch that game against the Jags? Did you see like after he came back, like his delivery and stuff was like the ball was coming out wobbly. He was obviously not putting any like pressure on his ankle. Like he did not look. I mean, hats off to him for like coming back and playing. But like, dude, like that was crazy. Like some of the throws that he had to make, and he almost like couldn't make some of those throws. It was wild.
Yeah, Dave. You can go, but I just have I think the Bengals are going to win by 10.
10.
That's my prediction. Yeah, I think that high ankle sprain, from what I've read, it's like 6 to 8 weeks normal recovery. I mean, I guess you got to do it, but I don't think it's going to be good, man.
Yeah, he's gonna be pretty hobbled. It's one of those games where he's gonna go out of the tunnel and be ready to play, and they're gonna give him a standing ovation, but he's not gonna look like himself. I think the whole team's gonna suffer a little bit because of it, which is kind of a bummer to see. Because Pat Mahomes, as much as I don't like the Chiefs and don't like Pat Mahomes, it's strictly out of jealousy, basically. Like I'm
Yeah.
jealous that the Chiefs are so good. I'm jealous of all the attention that Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs get. Like he is a stud quarterback and having a high ankle sprain that happened last week and trying to go out there and play against a tough Bengals defense who actually when you look at the Bengals defense on paper, their roster, you're not that impressed. I mean, they have two white defensive ends, but both of those guys, Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, are actually studs. They get to the quarterback. They put a ton of pressure on Josh Allen last week, so I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Pat Mahomes, and he's kind of like a wounded deer out there. So it's going to be trouble for the Chiefs, and they're going to have to rely heavily on Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon in little dump offs and hope that they can do well. But I think Isaiah Pacheco is the best running back they've had since Kareem Hunt. I think he was a great draft pick. He's panned out really nicely for them. I think they feel great about him going forward.
So, David, who do you think is going to win the game and by how much?
If I had to pick what I generally think is going to happen, I think the Bengals are going to win by 6.
Really, I'm saying Chiefs by 7 still. I don't know.
I'm taking Chiefs money line.
Oh, for sure. So I guess the quick question: what do you get? I mean, have you guys heard much about CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I feel like I haven't since they've drafted Pacheco. And is he hurt or does
he was hurt?
He's on the IR right now, but I think he was. They kind of put him there. I mean, kind of hey, we're not really going to use you. Let's just throw you on the IR and just make you feel better about the end of the season, because he'd basically be a third string running back right now, and he would get almost no action or no love. I think they're going to try to move on as quick as possible from Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
But just quick, I didn't realize how young he was. He's only 23.
Yeah, they just drafted him a year or two ago.
2 years ago, I think.
In the first round.
I mean, I think they're going to move on, but I think he's going to get an opportunity somewhere else.
You think so?
Yeah. What do you think, Nirvan? What are your thoughts? And because remember when he first came out that rookie season, didn't he ball out the first couple games?
They drafted him with he was a first round pick, which is crazy for these days for a running back. I think he was taken 32nd overall, I think. But
yeah,
you just don't take running backs in the first round, because when it comes to extend them, then they can use that leverage against you, kind of to say, I was a first round pick, I deserve X amount of money. But I don't know. I feel I don't think he has a place in KC anymore. I feel Pacheco is kind of what David said. He's a great draft pick. He's kind of the guy there. Jerick McKinnon, I mean, he was a former Viking. He was a really good kind of role player, kind of change of pace back. And I think he's doing that really well in KC. I just don't really see a place for CEH to kind of thrive. So maybe he gets moved. Maybe he doesn't get re-signed. I don't know.
Nirvan, what are your predictions for the game? You said you got Kansas City by 7.
I think KC's gonna move. I don't know. I just feel when you look at it too in the playoffs, KC has been here so many times. The coaching staff is just so used to this. I don't know. I feel you just can't. I feel I can't bet against KC in this situation. I think they're gonna win by 7 or more.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think they're used to losing to the Bengals. I think that's the only thing they're used to, brother. No, it'll be. I hope it's a good game. I hope that ankle, for some odd reason, isn't as hurt, because Patrick Mahomes is fun as hell to watch when he's on. So I would love to see a big shootout, 37-36 final, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, over/under's 46.5.
Both, is that fairly low? I mean, do you ever see him at 50, Dave, or is that pretty 40, mid-40s?
Yeah, I mean, I took Bills Bengals at 51.5 or something like that, I think.
Oh, it was high.
Yeah. So it just depends. I mean, like I said, those wild card games were all hovering around 50, and they all went over. And then the divisional rounds, every single game went under. So
hey, follow the pattern, dude. It's going to be all over.
Kind of a crapshoot for this week. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Nirvan. You got any last minute thoughts?
Not really. I mean, thanks for having me, boys. It's been fun. Been fun to chat a little ball, catch up with you guys.
Oh, yeah. We forgot one little segment you had proposed. What do you think? Who do you think ends up on top in the NFC North division next year?
Yeah. So this is my prediction. I think it's going to go Vikings, Lions, Packers, Bears.
Thanks, Nirvan.
Hey, you guys got
Dave?
the first overall for a reason, my guy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We'll see. It really depends on, I think, what happens with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I mean, if they have Jordan Love, I think they probably finish last in the division, to be honest.
I would go Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears. I would
You
just
think
put the Lions at the top.
you think the Lions are making the move?
Dude, I think they're legit.
Bears, Vikings, Lions, Packers is my pick.
That is wild, David.
We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for coming on, Nirvan. It was great to see you, buddy. Good catching up. John, pleasure as always. This has been
always.
episode 21 of the Amateur Hour podcast. Thank you all for listening. And if you've listened this far, we appreciate your love and support.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.